It is really embarrassing and frustrating to have to even argue about this. Where did we go wrong? Where did we develop this blind spot? So, what about all the statements that say that the Eibishter does not need anything? What does that mean? He gives you a whole Torah with 613 mitzvahs, and he doesn't need anything. Okay. He doesn't need anything means he can exist without it. Just like a person can exist without getting married, without having children, without having a family. So having children and getting married is not a need? Of course it's a need. It's a very intense, deep need. Why? Are you going to die if you're not married? No. Are you going to get sick if you're not married? No. Are you going to be poor and miserable? No. Oh, so you don't need it. The Eibishter's perfection means he can't be any older, he can't be any smarter, he can't be any stronger. That means he needs nothing. He's strong, he's old, and he's smart. Oh, then he can't need anything. No, then he's also stupid. Having a purpose, wanting to have a relationship with Am Yisrael is not an imperfection. It's not because he's not old enough, strong enough, or smart enough. But there's something essential before there's anything else, and there is only him. Him wants to have a relationship, which means it's not negotiable. It's not made up. It's not in response to you, because you don't exist yet. So, Lo toiv heyez ha'odam levadoi is the Eibishter describing himself. Can he be by himself? Well, he was for an eternity. But it's unacceptable. Because Lo toiv, not it's not possible. He can be by himself. And he was by himself. He was the Yochid be'olamai, but he wanted to be Echad. Okay, how much did he want to be Echad? Enough to create a universe, enough to send the neshama down to earth and watch it suffer, a little piece of him, enough to create Avedas and Gehenna and Golus and death, all so that our relationship can be real. He doesn't need it. He can take it or leave it. What kind of crazy picture is that? The Eibishter creates reward and punishment, makes your life difficult and painful, and he doesn't even need to do it. Chil Hashem to say such a thing. So it's a little tricky. It's a little tricky. This is not optional. The Eibishter, Torah, mitzvahs, and Yidden are bound together, inseparable, not optional. It's all him. So he has no other choice. But he does this by choice, because nothing can force him. So if nothing forces you, it's called willing. But the fact that you're willing to do something very important to you means there's no other choice. So if people are worried with, oh, so the Eibishter doesn't have Bechira? We have Bechira, he doesn't have Bechira? Of course he has Bechira. He doesn't have the choices we have. He can't eat chazer. After Mashiach comes, we won't have a Yetzer Hara anymore. Ruach hatuma avir min ha'oretz. So we're going to do mitzvahs without a Yetzer Hara. Will we still have Bechira? Yes. Aveda will not be one of the options. It means that you don't have Bechira. Bechira means you have an apple and an orange and you have to choose which one you want to eat. What if there's only one apple, period? That's all there is. So you have to eat the apple? You have no Bechira? You are a Baal Bechira. Whatever you're going to do, you're doing it because of you, not because of something outside of you. But being you is you. You have no choice in that. So it's a little tricky. But to reduce the Eibishter to some kind of a clown that plays these silly games that he does not need. Schrecklich.
But going back to the marriage example, like you said, like a person doesn't need to get married or to have kids. So people use that as a proof, saying God doesn't need the mitzvahs because someone will keep on living if they don't get married or they don't have kids. They may be lonely or not have a relationship. But Hashem's the same way. He doesn't really need the mitzvahs. As soon as you say that he needs them, it sounds like he won't exist without them.
Mm.
So that's, if you want to like sort of hone in and focus, that's where everyone gets tripped
so
up.
that's the childish mentality. You have to be honest and tell the truth. You say to a kid, you have to be honest and tell the truth. And the kid says, and if I don't, I'm going to die? Well, no. Okay, so I don't have to. It's so babyish. If I'm not going to die, then I don't have to. That's materialistic. It makes your survival the only important thing, right? So Hashem doesn't need a mitzvah for his survival. Every kid understands that. A person doesn't have to get married in order to survive. And why does he? Because he's a mensch. And to be a mensch is more important than surviving. No? Kol mi she'ein lebayis ein le'odam. Why, you can't survive without a house? You can survive, but you're not a mensch. You have the option of not being a mensch? No. You are a mensch. You can behave like an animal. That's not an option. So the Eibishter is the Eibishter, which means he is Shabbos, and he is Kashrus, and he is Brachas, and he is Yom Tov. Can he exist without it? His existence is never the issue. The issue is, if the Eibishter didn't love Torah, would he still be the Eibishter? No, he would be an Avodah Zarah. He would be Christianity.
So he has two parts: his existence and his purpose. Right? We put it like that: his existence and his tachlis. So the hard part, I guess, for people to wrap their head around is, in the human experience, I exist, and then as I get older, I sort of, figure out my purpose and how to accomplish that. With God, people's pushback and knee-jerk reaction is, no, I can't. Can't need the mitzvahs, because when we talk about human needs, that sounds like his need, and if he doesn't get the mitzvah, like let's say today I don't put on tefillin, that makes it sound like he's not going to exist anymore. But you're saying it's not his existence which is most important to him; it's his tachlis, it's his purpose. So, just to clarify, that's the hard part to wrap our mind around, because we always view as God existing, Hashem is here, Hashem is there, Hashem is everywhere, and He gives us the mitzvahs, but He can't really need it, because if He needed it, it sounds like He would need it for His survival and His existence. So, just if you could explain a little more, like, I don't know if the right way of asking is what came first, his purpose or his existence, or they come together. Like it's tricky, you know, to bring the two together, his existence and his purpose.
Yeah, so think about it in human terms. What's more important, my neshama or my body?
Neshama.
Some people think that it's the body. And what is the proof? The proof is that pikuach nefesh is deicha Shabbos.
Right.
For my body to continue existing, I violate every commandment. So what's more important? My existence. That is so corrupt. Your existence is more important than the reason for which you exist. That is so juvenile. Also, besides being an insult to the Eibishter, it's also an insult to Torah. What's Torah so special? One day, the Eibishter made up a bunch of mitzvahs and wrote them down and gave them to Moshe Rabbeinu. So what? What's so special? People who learn and people who know should ask themselves a serious question. Do you believe that the Torah once didn't exist, and then the Eibishter made it up and wrote it? If you think that there was a time or a level or a madrege in which Torah did not exist, that is absolute minus and apocryphis. Then the Torah is not emes. That which once didn't exist is not emes. We're playing with fire here. So, what do you think of the Eibishter is one thing, you got it all wrong. What you think of Torah, you get it all wrong. Chas v'sholem to believe that the Torah once did not exist. And not even to get into the question of Ivdu es Hashem. We are Avdei Hashem. An Eved does whatever he's told. But the Odain, the master, is not allowed to ask an Eved to do something that isn't essential. It's cruel and mentally destructive, because it's degrading to the human being. If you don't need it and you tell me to do it, you're degrading me. And you're not even allowed to do that to a slave. This does not need to be explained, justified, or defended. That the Eibishter doesn't need what he asks for, it's just plain apikursus and chutzpah. On top of everything else, those people who are really convinced, the big Talmidei Chachamim, who are really convinced that because the Eibishter is perfect, he doesn't need us. Well, since he's a big Talmud Chacham and he's almost perfect, he doesn't need his wife. Why would he need her? He doesn't need his children, unless they work for him and give him nachas. He doesn't need anything, he's perfect. Rachmanis on the wives. I think it's pretty clear. This is so essential to everything. To hashkafa, to emunah, to Torah, to mitzvahs, and to menschlichkeit. If you think being perfect means I don't need anybody, you're a monster. You're a sociopath.
Are you surprised that like Ura came out with these magnets and Hashem needs every yid and the song? Like, it's a pretty big step for them to say such a thing.
It's about time, because Tanya has been telling us for 250 years, your neshama is a little piece of him. What do you mean it's not important? What do you mean it's not essential? What do you mean he chose us? He could have chosen the Goyim? Then you don't know anything. You don't know the Aleph Beis of Yiddishkeit.
Do you recall that podcast you did with Shmuel Younger and getting into this?
I don't remember all the details now. But anybody with a drop of seichel, once you hear it, how can you even think otherwise? I told you I was speaking to an 11-year-old kid in Crown Heights. I said, Hashem really needs your mitzvah. He says he doesn't need, he wants it. I said he wants what he doesn't need. And the 11-year-old kid said, oh, no, never mind. That's silly. What are you making out of the Eibishter? He has a bunch of wants that aren't necessary for him. That's an immature child. A human being shouldn't want what he doesn't need. Just so thoughtless, because hashkafa is a neglected subject. People know Shas by heart, and they don't know what it means, Ivdu es Hashem.
But they're basing this on the Ramchal that they all learn.
They miss it. They twist it. It's an embarrassment to the Ramchal. It's an embarrassment to the Rambam. They quote the Rambam as saying, all these things in Torah are really not true. He doesn't get angry. He doesn't get pleasure. He doesn't. What did you say about the Rambam? Mainly, you're an apicus. Don't turn the Rambam into an apicus. Actually, this is what the Yevonim wanted. The Yevonim believed you should study Torah, but leave the Eibishter out of it. Be a chacham, a Talmud chacham, a genius, but leave the Eibishter out of it. I mean, if you take what they're saying seriously, the Eibishter doesn't need anything. He's just desperate to make you happy, like a helicopter mother. It's so distasteful and unhealthy. No, I just want you to be happy. So leave me alone and I'll be happy. No, but I want to make you happy. This is getting very sticky. The worst part of it is that it puts us in the center of the universe. And the Eibishter is just a means to an end. It's horrifying. It's the same mistake all the religions make. And that's why anyone with a little bit of seichel, once they hear that you have to stop using the Eibishter and start serving the Eibishter, their world changes. They light up. Suddenly, they know what they're here for. Suddenly, everything makes sense. It's so embarrassing for people who say, he's so perfect, he doesn't have to have a purpose. He's so perfect, he could stay in his mother's basement forever and do nothing and need nothing. In other words, he's so perfect, he's useless. What are you saying? What are you doing?